Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am Ashley Giardimos. I'm the Executive Director of the PNW Alumni Community and University Strategic Events. Today is the official launch of the PNW Alumni Owned Business Network. At Purdue Northwest, when we start talking about Power Onward, we're talking about the grit, the heart, the perseverance that our students show. When they graduate, that is not something that they lose, and it goes to show with the incredible alumni that we have. And it takes a lot of bravery and all of those things I just mentioned and more to have your own business, to start your own business, to become an entrepreneur. And that's why we're so excited to kick off this special community of people that provide mentorship to not only our students, but each other, other alumni and other business owners that are within our greater alumni community. We are honored to have two incredible alumni here today to share their success stories. But what I'm going to tell you about a little bit is if you are an actual, if you're a graduate of PNW that owns their own business, is looking to have a startup, or if you're a student who's interested in owning your own business one day, please visit our website, pnw.edu/alumni. You can find a form there that will allow you to fill out and become a part of the PNW Alumni Owned Business Network. And as we ramp this up, there'll be more information available to you and more exciting events along the way. The alumni community is so proud to partner with our friends at the PNW Career Center. They're incredible collaborators, and they're the perfect people to be a part of this launch today. Today we have moderating in the chat of the virtual section. And I do have to note that there is students who are having a live watch party, socially distanced, and there's some treats and some giveaways there as well. So they are watching from Alumni Hall. But we also have, of course, this virtual aspect to it. So we encourage you, please provide your comments inside the chat section. If you have a question, please let us know. And moderating that chat is our friend Caitlin Carriger, who is one of our career consultants in the PNW Career Center. She describes her role as helping students connect their passions to a career, walking them through the career development process, and helping them achieve more confidence in conveying their skill set and ultimately secure employment after graduation. There she is. And leading the discussion today is Jorge Lopez. He is also a career consultant with the PNW Career Center. And in short, he also describes his role as helping students prepare for the world of work through skill development. But what's more unique about Jorge is that he actually is an entrepreneur himself. He's focused in real estate and owns and manages several properties across Northwest Indiana. I would like to welcome everybody to the PNW Alumni Owned Business Network presents Side Hustle to Main Hustle. Jorge?
So in 2012, I just graduated college to be a high school math teacher. My starting salary was a little bit over $26,000. I was working 55 hours a week, and I knew this just wasn't sustainable. So when I took the plunge into real estate, I knew that I'd just be jumping into the deep end. I'd initially put together a plan to go on to this new adventure. But after signing the contract for the investment property, I was no more ready than when I had decided that I needed something outside of my 9-to-5. It was my first real taste of entrepreneurship and owning my own small business. I was in over my head, yet strangely, I felt very ready for the challenge. And so we have two rock stars in Chelsea Whittington, AKA the most influential woman of Northwest Indiana in media and marketing, and Alan Miskowski, Mr. NWI Times 20 under 40, joining us today. And so Chelsea, Alan, welcome to PNW's first Alumni-Owned Business Network event, Side Hustle to Main Hustle.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Good to be here.
So Chelsea, I'm going to go ahead and just list off a bunch of where you've been. Director of Communications for the City of Gary, worked for the Peace Corps Recruiting Office, worked for a congressman, Boys and Girls Club, Horseshoe and Trump Casinos, publisher of Ebony and Jet magazines, on the exec team for US Cellular and more. So if my math is correct, in about 20 Yeah, in about 20 years in a wide array of industries. Would you mind telling me just a little bit about yourself and then the decision to transition to full-time entrepreneurship after that much time in more of your traditional kind of W-2 type work?
Absolutely. And Jorge, you're being very kind. 20, it's more like almost 30 years, but I'll take the 20 and carry the one math teacher.
Yeah.
I am a proud native and still current resident of Gary, Indiana, a graduate of Howard University in Washington, D.C., where I earned my first degree in broadcast journalism. It was my initial goal to just jump out, become Oprah, bump her off, and just, make sure that I have her role, but she wouldn't stop working. So I had the great advice of my then supervisor as I was working for the Peace Corps recruiting office in Arlington, Virginia, who told me that my undergraduate degree would come a dime a dozen because so many people were earning their degrees. And she said, you need to extend your studies and you need to explore more in the field of communications than just journalism and just broadcast. And so I took her advice, but I also had an affinity for the region. Who doesn't love Northwest Indiana? And I wanted to be closer to my family. So I ended up at Purdue Northwest, which was Purdue Calumet at the time, but it's Purdue Northwest now. And I received my master's degree in organizational communication. And it was such a wonderful and fulfilling program in that I was working at the time. I started my first job at the Boys and Girls Club as the journalism program coordinator. And Jorge, I will tell you, you said yours was starting salary was what, 26,000? I'll see your 26,000 for my 21,000. But that was in 1994. But I was really pressing my way and trying to find out what facet of communications that I was going to go into, and Purdue proved to be very helpful with the networking that was taking place. A lot of other professionals in the field who were working and going to school at the same time. While there, I transitioned into a new role as Director of Marketing and Communications for the Lake Area United Way. So that was a really perfect situation in that Purdue was a great supporter of United Way, and United Way was a very great supporter of me obtaining my education. Fast forward those 25 or so years, I have held a variety of positions, as you indicated, all in the field of communications, from Johnson Publishing Company, publisher of Ebony and Jet magazines, US Cellular, and most recently, the Chicago Urban League. I served as the Director of External Affairs and Special Events. Spent some time in the city of Gary as the Director of Communications for the first female African-American mayor in the state of Indiana, the Honorable Karen Freeman Wilson. So it was an honor to make history as a part of that administration. And all this time, I will be honest with you, being an entrepreneur was not on my mind. I had the mindset that I needed to have a secure, very secure position, insurance, and I know that I'm going to get a check that will sustain me for every 2 weeks. That was my mindset. And it's so ironic because I'm a child of an entrepreneur. My parents owned gas stations in Gary for almost 40 years, and I worked in their business. And I guess part of me saw how my father and my parents, they worked a lot because they were bosses. And I thought, well, if I can just punch a clock, I'll have more free time to live my life in other areas. Well, after garnering all this experience with all these different organizations that I just named, it was really my spouse who broached the conversation to me to say, you have done this for so many different brands, so many different people, and you're building this following on, at the time it was getting kind of new, social media. So I said to him, right, but how? Are you all still there?
Yeah, you started cutting out a little bit towards the
I'm
end there.
sorry. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
My screen for some reason went out. Okay.
You're good.
He said, what are you going to do with all those contacts and all this experience? You can certainly do this on your own. So I just dipped my toe in the water by doing some side projects, just like this, the name of this, the name of today's segment about the side hustle and the main hustle. So I made it my side hustle. And one of my very first clients was State Senator Eddie Melton. And at the time, he was candidate for State Senate, Eddie Melton. And I assisted with his social media and some of his communications efforts. And to be quite honest, I had a really good time doing that, especially when he was victorious. And I felt that I played a critical role in helping him drive his messaging and introducing a fresh face to politics. But that was in 2016. I still held on to the 9-to-5, taking on clients here and there. And it was in 2019 when, quite frankly, that side hustle started to dominate the main hustle. And I had to make a decision. And so on March 30th, which is my birthday, I went full time with my launch party and I launched my business, CWIT PR. And I'm proud to report that many of those former employers that I spoke of are now my clients. And so I'm able to take the talents that I have and share them with a variety of businesses and brands and make a great impact right here in my home region of Northwest Indiana. And that's where I am today.
Beautiful. Now you get to tell all your former employers who you with.
Who you with?
Yeah.
See with?
I love that slogan. Alan, so you have an interesting path too. Your entrepreneurship journey was not linear either. You had dropped out of college, became a baseball coach at both the high school and here at PNW, and then made the decision to finish out your degree at PNW. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and at what point did you think creating your own business was what you wanted to pursue?
Well, that's a great question, Jorge. I think that you're right. It wasn't very linear. There's a lot of different ways to there are a lot of different turns my life took. I would say from an entrepreneurial side of things, I think my love for it kind of started when I was 10 or 11 selling baseball cards. I think most people kind of get their start socially that way. Just very fun, which is interesting that that's kind of come full circle back. And there's a lot of investment opportunities in that field now. But yeah, I mean, I was always interested in media from high school to from above, on beyond that. You're right. You know, my first time through school was more around baseball, and I studied business management. And I think, you know, especially at a commuter college, for the most part, I think that could be really relatable to a lot of students that are currently watching, hopefully, is that sometimes you get stuck into a degree, and mine was business management, that I really wasn't sure. I really didn't find a passion in it. And it was one of those things that was really complicated for me to want to finish and have the motivation to finish, to be honest. And so I went through route sales opportunities with Red Bull and Naked Juice, and baseball kind of brought me full circle. I fell in love with coaching, took a real aggressive turn at making that a career. So I was giving private lessons, started my own travel baseball organization. And that took me to Andrean High School, where I was the pitching coach there. We've had some success there, so that allowed me to kind of leapfrog another level. And so I started being the pitching coach at Purdue Northwest. At the time, it was PNC at the Westville campus, and fell in love with the English program. Part of my component to that was, if you do come here and you are the pitching coach, we'll pay for your schooling. Because the head coach, John Weber, who's an amazing person, I think he's no longer at the school, but great mentor of mine. He said that, hey, you know, I know you haven't finished your degree yet. We'll pay for your schooling. Just come on in and check it out. And I had a great Beth Rudnick, who I believe is still at PNW, as an advisor. She gave me 5 classes that she knew I was there. She told me that, you know, the biggest focus is that baseball is going to be my main thing. But however, I'm going to give you some of the best professors on campus. And fell in love with the English program, redid my entire degree, all my credits, took over the school newspaper with Tom Albano, who's still there. My junior and senior year, I was editor-in-chief, and then took that experience on. I interned at the Times with Phil Potempa, because I knew media was the route I wanted to go. Also worked for Lakeshore PBS and NPR. So fell in love with that for about 4 years. And then through that experience, now I'm 32, fast forward to that, and just really wanted to make my own path and create my own media. And so that's why I started Local 219 and haven't looked back since.
So I'd like to transition to extrinsic versus intrinsic motivations. Alan, for you, it sounds like this was really a passion project turned into a business. So there's a lot of students that go into the business school, not necessarily saying that that's our students, but just in general, business students may go there focused on the drive to make money. Can you do that? Can you start a business with money as the main goal, or does it have to spring from something deeper?
Honestly, Jorge, I'm probably the worst person to ask that question to. Money has never really been my main goal. Once I found out something I loved, it was all about shooting videos and taking pictures and writing blogs and just kind of going crazy with it. I'm very fortunate that over the 3 to 4 years of doing this, it has been lucrative. It's been very, the community has responded incredibly to my vision, to my creative impulses. And yeah, I mean, and you're right, like, there are people that are going through the business program, and everyone has their own path, so just because I fell in love with video and I fell in love with like the content side of things at a great time for it, to be honest, doesn't mean that you can't be very successful, whether you're in the culinary program at PNW right now and you want to start a restaurant, or you, like yourself, you want to start investing into real estate. There's so many opportunities to do that. And I think that experience is a real important component to being able to say, okay, I think I can take that plunge and really start to do something for yourself and find ways to make it lucrative. And I think, I can't speak for Chelsea. She's way more experienced than I am, but for me, it was like, I knew that if I followed my goals and my ideas, the money would come, and thank God it has. So otherwise I wouldn't be here, I guess.
Yeah, there's the common saying, it took me 10 plus years to be an overnight success, right? Like you're putting in the work for so long that may not see the fruits of your labor right away, but like you said, now it's starting to become more lucrative because you've been putting in the work and investing in yourself and in your business to see those types of results, right?
Yeah. And the number one thing, honestly, is it's experience and just getting a chance to be around so many great people and mentors throughout my life that you don't realize at the time are going to be your building blocks for everything you're going to do in the future. And so even though my path wasn't very linear, the people that I met along the way have been, I can't say enough for them.
And Chelsea had brought this up earlier, of her husband really giving her the push. We had spoken before, Alan, about your wife saying, yep, go for it, and getting the okay. I'd like to transition that a little bit into maybe this idea of there being maybe a certain level of privilege involved with maybe even starting a business. Maybe that's due to financial stability. Maybe you have the familial support like I just spoke about, or having kind of the cultural capital, and having a history of connections or knowledge through your family, et cetera. Chelsea, is entrepreneurship feasible for everyone?
I would say that entrepreneurship is not feasible for everyone, only because we are all wired differently, right? And we need individuals in corporate environments. We need people in our higher education. And I feel like it's more of a calling because there is passion attached to that calling. And some people don't have the desire to say, I want to be the last one to leave, the first one to arrive, the person to lock up, the person who has to do the payroll. And that's okay. And so I don't feel like entrepreneurship has to be a path for everyone or is for everyone. But when you talk about having that type of support from the family standpoint, as well as the financial standpoint, they are critical. We have various titles in my household, And one of my titles, I am the Chief Finance Officer of our household. I handle the bills and oversee the budget and look the stock options. All of those things fall into my wheelhouse because those are things that I love to do. And so I'm more of a conservative, according to my financial advisor. I'm a conservative type. And so I was not one of those entrepreneurs that just jumped in because I had a great idea. There are some who do. I am one of those entrepreneurs that mapped out a plan to say, if I get to this point, then if my ideas don't flesh out like I thought they would, I would still have enough capital to support myself until I'm able to successfully re-enter into the workforce. And quite frankly, that is what I do recommend for those who are viewing this presentation today, to just err on the side of caution as far as having a nest egg if possible. I understand that there are opportunities that come out of the blue, the next big thing, but that just gives you more reason to start saving now. If you are in a job now where you can save a few dollars here or there toward your dream, that gives you more of the confidence and the level of comfort, so that when you are ready to take that leap into entrepreneurship, you will have a soft place to land. And so I felt like doing the saving piece of it and putting some things in place prior to just leaving my job made it a safer journey for me. Everybody's not the same, but that would be my recommendation. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint at heart, and there are going to be some stumbling blocks, some obstacles, and it just doesn't hurt to have some capital to help combat those issues that are going to come.
Alan, how do you kind of see it?
It's interesting because when I first started, I started my business with $3,000. And so I did not have that nest egg. And now that I'm 3.5 years in, I would say take Chelsea's advice.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were married either, because the other piece to it is when you are connected and have family, you have to also be considerate of the other person and not putting the whole load on him or her to say, okay, I'm getting ready to go make this widget and you take care of everything else. Now, if you have it like that, that's amazing. But if you're in a partnership, you have to be considerate of your partner and your family to say, support my dream, but I am going to be mindful that I still have a role to play in contributing to the bottom line of the house.
Mm. Yeah.
I was married, and again, advice I wish I would have heard 3.5 years ago.
You didn't connect with Chelsea 3.5 years ago.
No, I should have, man. That would have saved me a lot of stress.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember growing up. So my dad was in real estate. He had some properties too. And I would be resentful because anytime a tenant left, he'd be saying, hold it, smart. And then my brother, let's go. It's time to clean that place up. And so I was resentful and never, ever thought that I'd be having properties of my own right now. And so it makes it hard too, because for me to speak, at least, because I did have my father to look up to and see what he kind of went through. Chelsea, you had your folks that were entrepreneurs too. But I'd love to kind of speak to, let's say, students that are watching this don't have a network, don't have like an immediate circle. Both of you are very well connected within the 219. So what are some ways that you would kind of recommend for students to start reaching out to other folks, or what are some steps that they can do to actually start cultivating this network in order to help them progress in either their career or in their entrepreneurship journey?
Keyword, internships. I'll say it again, young people, internships. And they are a lot more readily available now than they were when I was coming through college. I kind of had to create opportunities and bogart my way in to say, well, I'm just going to shadow you. I'm going to follow you. But being able to shadow or be a part, even if it's not paid, some of the best experience you can garner to find out either what you would like to do. And sometimes when you get in that environment, you find out maybe this isn't the career path that I want to follow. And so I had several internships while I was a student at Howard University. And I make it a point now to reach back and help and mentor young people and have interns in my business as well. I have one now. And so it's something that you can also put on your resume, and it's an opportunity to meet and connect with individuals that you wouldn't normally meet, say, in a campus environment. I'm always telling my intern, as I take her into the offices of CEOs and chancellors and well-to-do individuals, I said, you'll never get this experience in college. And she's a college student. And so I said, be mindful of where you are and make the most of these contacts so that when you are ready to pursue your career path, whether it be entrepreneurship or in the corporate sector, that you utilize, you reach back, and then you do the same thing for someone else. That's the key part. Once you get your leg up, you reach back and you help somebody else.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I think we talked about, whether or not people have being an entrepreneur in them. I think this is the crossroads. At this moment, you're going to face a lot of adversity. You're going to send a lot of emails. They're going to go unanswered. And this is the time that you really got to be persistent. And you'll find out what kind of person you are from the amount of opportunities you create once you graduate. When I graduated from school, it was with an English degree of all things. And it was, there's the world, go attack it. And that was what it was left with. And so it was cashing in every single favor I ever had with anybody that I knew. And it was really just trying to make sure that I got myself in a position to be able to be successful and do it. I knew what I wanted to do moving forward. So I would say this is probably the first test of being an entrepreneur, is what you do with it once you graduate.
So it sounds like both of you, I just read this book, Caitlin actually recommended to me. It's called The Third Door. There's a front entrance, there's a back entrance, but then there's the side one, the third door, where you're creating your own opportunities and you're really trying to meet as many folks as possible, or even create internships or create, portfolios that aren't assigned. So, I really wanted to emphasize that piece. There's a lot of people that are looking at traditional college education and questioning whether it arms them with the skills they need to enter the world of work, whether that's business, corporate, standard 9-to-5, or it's entrepreneurship. Alan, did you feel like school prepared you for starting your own business?
I don't know about starting my own business. But I will say that the lessons of going to class every day, the deadlines, with my program in particular, just thinking outside the box, analyzing things from 100 different perspectives, it's something I apply every day. But from an entrepreneurship side, I'm not sure. But from that other side of things, like I said, it's something that, even if I'm running late, I remember like Professor Hecht, who's a professor at PNW. I remember him meeting me out in the hallways, like, what is going on? Why are you always late? You can't do that. Just little basic things, or being 3 days past the deadline because I want to make sure the paper is going to be the most amazing thing I ever turned in. But at the end of the day, you have to be respectful of their time, and just turning in something is better than nothing and being late. So, there's so many different, just pure, life experiences that I got out of it that I wouldn't change it for the world.
So a lot of those soft skills, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah. A lot of those soft skills. So Chelsea, same question to you. Like if you felt prepared, or if the degree was kind of necessary to get into, what you're doing now.
I would say absolutely. My education at Howard University as well as Purdue are invaluable. While the coursework per se, it was not introduction to entrepreneurship, it was the character built within me that I could only obtain on the campuses of these distinguished institutions. I was taught from the day I stepped on campus in Washington, D.C., and followed by coming back here to Hammond, that I could do or be anything I wanted. And having that constant reinforcement of that absolutely prepared me for entrepreneurship. The organizational skills, as my colleague stated about having to be places and be responsible of turning in assignments, definitely laid the foundation But I think the networking, the memories, and it's so ironic that this program is launching right around the same time that they're doing the same thing at Howard, where they're inviting entrepreneurs to be a part of a directory to mentor some of the current students. And so it says that that connection with university life and education is paramount, critical, important, and should be one of the things that entrepreneurs seek as a part of their journey to becoming entrepreneurs. Now, particularly those who are in the business school, obviously the coursework is there. They talk more about what platforms for accounting and best business practices. That definitely makes education relevant. But for me, it was the relationships forged and the confidence built while I was a student at both of those institutions.
So let's dig more a little bit into that. I'm someone that listens to lots and lots of podcasts. I attend keynotes. I always like to hear something tangible that I can kind of do immediately or put into practice. And I truly believe I'm one that follows trying to get 1% better every single day. And so we have, some young entrepreneurs, recent grads or undergrads that are listening right now, or will look back at this recording. Chelsea, can you kind of speak to maybe some skills that one would need from getting a good idea to actually starting maybe a business? And maybe that's something even as granular as some steps that they should maybe start taking.
I have several, so thank you for asking. First and foremost, I guess I should have mentioned this in the previous question. My both degrees taught me stellar communication skills. And when you are out trying to sell a dream and have people believe in you, invest in you, and support you, you'll have to be able to effectively convey what it is you're trying to sell. Whatever it is you're trying to do, you want people to get on board. You want to be able to be so well versed about your business, your idea, your plan, and how you're going to execute it till people have no choice but to follow and get on board with what you're trying to do. So step one, I would say, is make sure you hone and work on your communication skills, both orally and written. Nothing worries me more than an illiterate email. Send me something with typos in it and see how fast I'm happy to respond in support. Not real fast. So if that is your introductory language to me, then it's already having me scratch my head to say, you're looking to be head of a company and you have typos in an email that you're reaching out to someone whom you've never met. Same goes with writing your business plans, your proposals, any type of correspondence is a part of communication. So that's something low-hanging fruit that your professors, I'm sure, are telling you now. And here's the challenge with the times in which we live. Everything is so immediate. Everything is so abbreviated. So sometimes those paths cross from how we speak and communicate in a less formal environment versus when it's time to be professional. And so our young people, our budding entrepreneurs, definitely need to emphasize how important it is to be an effective communicator. The next thing I would say is start building your network now. Business cards are golden. As obsolete as they may seem, you'll say, just text me or email me and I'll get back to you. No, when you need to have your own business card or calling card, as we used to say back in the day. And you need to collect as many as you can over time and store them in a database. Why? Because at some point, you want to reach back out to this network to support whatever the business is that you have decided to start. I'll give you a prime example. I was at an event on Sunday afternoon, and when the event concluded and I was in the lobby, I saw a business table where there were just tons of business cards of different business owners who had just left their card out for information. I grabbed every one of them and I went home and put every email address in my database. So the next time I send out my e-blast, there will be an additional 30 new people who are going to hear from me about my brand and about all of the brands that I represent. Networking is key. Be ready. to walk into a room or virtually in a Zoom environment online and be able to express yourself. Make them remember you long after the Zoom chat is over. Make them want to connect with you. And these are soft skills that can be honed now while you're in a university environment. And for those who are watching and want some more tips and want to reach out to me after, I am happy to help, because again, the last key step is reaching back and helping somebody else.
As we could bring in Alan's, he used to trade baseball cards. Now we have business cards are the new currency. It's the new currency.
Indeed.
Yeah. And I love that you brought in your written correspondence. We speak with so many students in the Career Center that have this impression that their first impression is when they meet and shake hands, when in reality, it's the email that they first sent to the HR rep, or it's the LinkedIn connection that they're actually typing a note in on how they're portraying who they are, whether that's typos, grammar, etc. So I love that you brought that in. Alan, what is maybe some tangible steps that you think that a budding entrepreneur should definitely have?
Well, I think that speaking to the student, right, and going through that experience, it's if you're just going to school and you're going home, you're not doing it right. I think you've got to get involved with clubs. You've got to really just get as involved as you possibly can across the board, whether that's being a TA, whether that's being a part of student government, whether that's whatever you can, the writing center, the career center, whatever you can to start getting involved. And then also, I think you take things for granted sometimes in life. And it's sometimes hard to really perceive who you are when you're in the middle of what you're doing. And so I would say the most tangible thing that you could do right now would be identify about 5 people that are around you that either are currently people you respect that are in your life, or maybe even somebody in the past, whether it was a high school teacher, former coach, whatever, maybe you worked a part-time job at a local place that you really respected the owner of. And I would say really find a way to reconnect with them and do it in a way that isn't just passive. Regina Biddings-Murrow, who used to be at Purdue Northwest, was a dean.
Classmate.
Oh, I love her.
Graduated together.
Yeah, she's like one of my favorite people in the world, and she's the one who put me onto this. So this isn't my own idea, but I would try to really meet with these people that I really cared about, that I felt like were going to make a difference in my life at least once a quarter, and spend an hour or two with them, and knowing that we're going into that conversation where I'm going to be doing a lot of talking and they're going to be doing a lot of listening, and they're going to be helping guide me, and that is like some of the most monumental stuff you can do at this time. And like I said, if you're just going to class and you're leaving, you're not getting the most out of that opportunity. I can promise you.
I love that, Alan. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Add on one more thing, one of the most important things, and I'm going to put my professorial glasses on. I've been a professor for the past 20 years at Valparaiso University, Valparaiso and IUN and Indiana Wesleyan. And in many of the courses that I've taught at these universities in more recent years, focuses on your life online, social media. We've got to clean those pages up. Many are under the expectation that because they've changed their name or because their page is private, that their social media activity will not be uncovered. There are ways. And if you have ambitions of becoming an entrepreneur or anything else, your social media pages speak volumes about you before you even enter a room. Just like you're looking us up to prepare for an interview, we're looking you up too. And so if your information happens to get shared on a page that I happen to have access to, and I'm seeing things that are unflattering, that are profane, that are disrespectful, that already sets the path for doors to be closed. And so I constantly encourage those who are on social media to make sure that there's a positive vibe, there's informative vibe, and there's no set guideline that I should be able to do this on Facebook, but it's okay because I'm okay on LinkedIn. No, treat all of those platforms the same because you want to speak in one unified voice to say, I'm responsible, I'm capable, I'm educated, I'm ready, you can trust me. But if your social media life says otherwise, you are already stacking the deck against yourself. So I had to say that. Thank you, Jorge.
Absolutely. So that's just speaking to your overall brand. Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Alan, I wanted to touch on something that you had said. You said when you're meeting with these 5 folks in your inner circle, you don't want it to just be passive. And I also would just know that students to not make this transactional either, where this actually happened about 2 months ago. I had somebody on LinkedIn knew that I was a career consultant at an undergraduate at a different university, reached out to me and said, hey, here's my resume. Do you know of any jobs?
Just like that.
I had never spoken to the student ever. And so there was no relationship built. I felt, for lack of a better word, used. I felt like, I had no type of relationship. I was just a means to an end. And so when you're using your network, do it in a way that's organic and meaningful rather than just transactional and saying at the very last minute, I'm looking for a job. What can you do for me? But you're really putting in the effort, checking in on them, seeing how their work is doing. If it's a professor, what kind of research are they doing? How is their classwork going? What are some interests that they have? Those are types of things that we're looking for when you're networking and making it a more organic experience.
It's funny because Natalie Connors wrote "It happens all the time." I think I was one of those people to her when I was in school there. So,
well, I'm glad she's here and you can redeem yourself. So this past year has been so wild for so many reasons. We have a pandemic. Almost all interactions are transitioning to virtual. Work is being conducted virtually. So the housing bubble of 2008, 2009 wasn't too long ago. And our current students are still feeling the after effects of COVID's impact. Now, I definitely didn't want to make COVID most of what this is. But Alan, I was just wondering if you could speak to maybe the art of the pivot, reinventing your business to meet the needs of your clientele, even if they don't know what their needs are. Like, and this could go for both of you. Like, a lot of times they say, I need help, and you need to really extract what the heck that means. So if you could just speak to the art of the pivot and kind of reinventing your business in trying times.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure Chelsea can attest to this too. I think part of that spirit that we're talking about is dealing with adversity. I think that's a major component to it. And so when COVID happened for myself, I had a staff of about 12 people. I had an office in downtown Crown Point, and we were really becoming a marketing boutique. I mean, essentially, we were managing social media for people. We were building websites. We were doing our brand. I had the social media manager, and we had a lot of these positions that were keeping that machine alive of what we were doing at that time. When COVID happened, from a marketing perspective and from a PR, it seemed like overnight you're starting to get every day you're getting more and more calls about, hey, we don't know what the future looks like here. We're going to have to put you on hold for a little bit because unfortunately in my business, marketing is like the first thing to start going for budgetary reasons when you're working with a lot of small businesses like I was. So in that sense, I mean, there was a real bleak time there where for about a month, I didn't know if this was going to continue to happen, being completely transparent. And so as time went on, it did what it did in hindsight is it allowed me a refreshing point to really kind of take a breath and re-strategize what my next steps were going to be. And so from that point forward, I come from a videography background. And so I felt like we were wasting a lot of resources at the time on just a bunch of stuff that we weren't great at. And so let's focus a little bit more on the stuff we are great at. So I kind of went all chips in, and I decided to do all videography for the most part because it was something that I could handle with the amount of people that were still around, because let's face it, when something like that happens, other people are finding other opportunities too, because we all got to get bills paid. So it really forced a moment of introspection. And I think that is a learning lesson that I think most business owners moving forward, it was a great one to have, because re-identifying your business every couple years and to really assessing what's working, what's not working, how to continue the growth path of what's your strengths. And there's a good friend of mine, Chris Pappas, who owns Provecho Restaurant in downtown Crown Point. We had a conversation during that time period, and as a restaurant owner, you were done. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, you could do carry out, but it was nothing like it was. And so it's so amazing to see how even he reinvented himself and he pivoted to not only just doing carry out, but making meals that were very specific to the home. So instead of just ordering off the menu and calling in, we were going to create meals for them. They started to package them. They started getting those out, really did help. And then he turned his entire restaurant, where the dining room was, into a grocery store. And I mean, you start to see these people and like, that is a testament to the true spirit, because it broke a lot of people. And I would be lying to say at times it didn't break me too. I had my moments of, wow, what's going to happen here? But the lessons learned from it and the growth from really being able to identify who you are is something that I probably wouldn't trade for anything at this point.
So that reminds me of, I think it's called the Pareto's principle, where it's the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your business comes from maybe 20% of your clientele, or 80% of your productivity comes from 20% of your 8-hour day. This 80-20 rule just consistently kind of comes up. And so you did some self-reflection to see, where can I start to cut some of the fat that's not really working for my business, and how can I pivot to make sure that we do come out of this better in the end. Chelsea, what did you see as you kind of pivoted and had to do things differently?
Well, fortunately, the services that I provide, a lot of them are online, as far as my colleague indicated, doing social media for clients. And so that piece of the business continued. I did have 2 staff members that I had to lay off for a while, for the simple fact that another part of my services included going out in the field and interviewing our clients, covering their products and their events. And since they weren't having events, I didn't have a need for a team to have to do that. So my main concern was my 2 staffers, but fortunately they also had full-time jobs, so they were working for me in a part-time basis. So I knew that they would be okay. But then I had to go down my list of clients to just do a deep dive to see how each one would be impacted based on the services they provide. I do have one client who owns a restaurant, Jay's Breakfast Club in Gary, a very popular restaurant in the region. And during the month of April, I believe it was, she made the decision to shut down for a month. And we put our heads together to come back in May, and how we were going to make a big splash with that, with the whole carry out. And she even went a step further to organize her pricing, where everything was a whole number, where they weren't dealing with change and everything was touchless. A lot of things that she put thought into, and thankfully, having the business background, she was able to rebound in a major way. Some of my other clients, not so much, and had to take a hiatus with me. But I am thankful, over the course of time, as people started to hear more about what I was doing and me sending out information about the different services that I provide, my business more than quadrupled during the pandemic. And I'm very thankful for that. I am thankful for those clients who stuck with me, or they are with me. And we were able to come up with more creative ways, because the things that they would normally do in person, we just made the conversion to making it an online event, whether it was a fundraiser that was going to be in person. One example, my client is the YWCA of Northwest Indiana. We'd had a big gala planned for October in honor of their 100-year anniversary. We had to pivot to a gala that was online in a virtual environment, and sponsors came on, and we exceeded our goal of $100,000 to raise. One, because they knew that the pandemic was going to impact services delivered, but two, we did it in such a creative and entertaining way that it made people want to get involved. It made them want to be a part of the auction and the raffles and to make donations. So we soon found out that there was a way to do this. And here's the biggest key learning, that we found out in many instances that we were limiting ourselves to only marketing to people who were in the region. Now, when you host events like this, my Howard friends are online now in Washington, D.C. watching, or my former coworkers who now live in LA or family in Texas. They're able to access information that we for so long held so close to the vest to say, you have to come to Purdue and be in the auditorium to hear what we have to say. But now it becomes second nature that even if we are in person, going forward, we're going to make sure that there's a live stream component to it, a way that people can watch it after the fact, a way that people can give online, all of these things that were already in place, but we didn't give as much weight to these things. And now we have actually expanded our audience, which can ultimately mean expanding your bottom line.
Absolutely. So your second kind of slogan after who you with, it could be the Gala Guru. So you can make sure to start using that nationwide.
Indeed.
I'll take a 1% cut.
I have
on all
another
of that.
gala coming up in November for the Chicago Urban League. We did one last year. We're doing it again. Let's just keep it virtual and add more people on, and then you can still have the in-person component when it's feasible.
Yeah, and it's really forced so many folks to have to figure out Zoom too. So like not only you as the entrepreneur, but those that are the clients, they had to adjust too, which makes your job easier moving forward. And so we are kind of winding down, and we just kind of talked about some of the low parts over the past year, but I'd love to kind of to switch to maybe some of the high parts. So for example, my wife and I, we moved up here from Indy 2 years ago, and we were finally in a place where we could financially afford for her to move from 5 days a week to 2 days a week working. And so now we were able to really focus on, she could focus and we can focus more on our family and what we really wanted to spend our time doing. So I'd love to kind of hear from both of you, when did you feel like, you were in the right path or you made the right decision to kind of go this route? Alan, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Can you rephrase the question for a second? I'm not sure how to answer that.
Yeah. So just, has there been a time where you felt like you made the right decision going this entrepreneurship route? Or was there a specific moment, or did did anything kind of hit you where you knew you'd quote unquote made it or made the right decision?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of moments that I think these moments in life will surprise you a little bit. I think that the moment that you feel like made it feels like that quarter, and then the next quarter it's another one, and so that's been somewhere that we've been really blessed. But it's funny. I would say that when, and I don't know if it's coming from the problems of COVID and then kind of rebounding and rising from the ashes of that, but the amount of business that has been coming in since probably November of last year till now is just overwhelming. It's amazing. I mean, even on this year alone, we're expected to 6x what we've ever done, and maybe 2x what we've done in the 3 years of my existence of this thing. So, I mean, I'm kind of in that moment now, to be honest with you. Since the last week of January until today, we've shot about 230 videos. And that's not only shooting them, that's editing them too, and that's getting them out and making deadlines. So I would say that the future for me is like, I'm kind of in it right now, and very, very blessed to be surrounded by so many great corporations, nonprofits, businesses that have all bought into my passion and my thoughts. And I hope, and that is, something that I definitely see in them as well. And I'm sure Chelsea feels the same way. It's like these people, we're talking business, right? But this becomes friendships. When I can guarantee you, when Chelsea did that Urban League gala last year and saw the success from it, that was not only a success of fundraising for the Urban League, that's a success. You're with these people the entire time of planning. You're sharing the anxiety, you're sharing the stresses, And then that day of, when that happens, I mean, it's an accomplishment for you. So even on a smaller level, you know, not only for myself, but when people do hire us for something, and we're able to not only deliver that, but then see like immediate results that make an impact in what they're doing. I mean, these wins come all the time, you know, in that sense. Don't get me wrong, there are losses, you know, and sometimes as a human, you start to dwell on the losses more than the wins. Especially when, I'm sure, you know, part of being an entrepreneur is just being incredibly ambitious and not settling, you know. So some of those losses feel really big. When I was coaching baseball, I know that when we would lose a game, it felt like we lost 5, and when we'd win 3, it just felt like it passed to the next day. So I think if I'm taking I think a lesson I'm learning from this webinar, speaking out loud, is that maybe I should stop and smell the roses sometimes a little bit more than I do.
So Susie Sunshine over here. Anybody who knows me, anybody who's close to me knows that I'm just a half glass full person. I can take the saddest situation and say, but here's what came out of it. And I think that has benefited me in the long run. Even with the pandemic, the lessons learned, as tragic as it has been with lives lost, there are so many other upsides. Attention being paid to industries, business owners, ethnicities, and people with different backgrounds that didn't have a platform. Their voices were silenced. And so sometimes it takes something major, something tragic, to shed light on things that matter. And so I will say that. And to answer your question about how did I know I had done the right thing, like you said, that there are many moments that reaffirm and say, yes, we got another contract, or yes, we got that package on ABC and they want to do another interview, those types of wins. But I think when I had my launch party on my birthday 2 years ago, and to see the room filled with people from my whole fabric of life, it was like a woven quilt of people I used to ride the train with when I worked in Chicago, to my high school friends, to my former coworkers at different places, my family, my spouse, my in-laws. It was the very fabric of my life all in one room saying to me, Chelsea, you can do this. And so I looked at them to say, I'm not going to let you down. And I have not looked back since, given the childhood that of an entrepreneur, being a child of an entrepreneur. I know it's in my blood. It's just a matter of me getting up every day, getting out there, being the best version of myself, and again, helping somebody else along the way.
Love it. So I think the theme that I'm kind of gathering from the both of you is that relationships have played such a huge factor into your success and into what you build and interweave throughout your business too. Like, it's not just about the analytics and the revenue and the expenses. It's about really investing in people and investing especially in this region.
Absolutely.
So I just want to close out, and then Caitlin's going to go ahead and lead us in our Q&A session. We have about 14 minutes left. So what's next for you, and where can students find more about you? Chelsea, why don't you go ahead and lead us?
What's next for me? This past Saturday, I taught my first class of the arm of my company that I've launched, called CWIT University. So maybe you don't want to hire me or retain me for my services, but you want to learn how to do what I do. I created CWIT University so that anyone can come in here in my office in downtown Hammond and take courses around promoting their business. We have a full curriculum offering everything from website development to public speaking to social media branding, email marketing. And so it's my way, again, of giving back, but also arming other entrepreneurs with the tools they need to be successful, to let people know that they exist. So what you will be seeing from me is more announcements and information about course offerings. We also do one-on-ones and customized courses for individuals who may not feel like being in a classroom setting. So we can set something up where we can do one-on-one teaching in areas that you may need some coaching in. I have also launched an initiative with my trainer my physical fitness trainer, called Your Brand, Your Body. I found out over the pandemic that I'm a lover of exercise already, but I knew that the pandemic would present challenges as far as being able to get the exercise that I was normally used to getting. So I set a goal to transform during the time that our world was transforming. And over the course of the past year, I've lost 50 pounds. And I started to feel better. The confidence level came, and I really started to grow my business at the same time. So I came up with the idea as I was working with my trainer to say, I want to work with you, because she too was building her business. And I said, when you're building your brand, it's also about your body and how you feel and how you take care of yourself. So I created the concept, Your Brand, Your Body. And in February, we had our inaugural event where we had people to attend our courses. It was a full day seminar. And I talked about all of the different brand items, social media and marketing. And she covered the healthy portion of it. We had food demonstrations. We had a networking vendor fair. We had our professional headshots done, and it was an overwhelming success. And so we've decided to do this every quarter. So the next one is coming up on May 1st. Our venue sponsor is the YWCA of Northwest Indiana. So we're inviting entrepreneurs and community leaders to come out again. And this time the subject is going to be in my area, how to get your brand in media. So how do you get on TV? How do you get on radio? And I have some heavy hitters coming out of Chicago to serve on the panel. And then we'll also have the vendor fair and all of those healthy eating options all wrapped up into one day on May 1st. So that's what you will be hearing from me. CWIT University, Your Brand, Your Body. Please follow me on Facebook, CWIT PR. You can find me on LinkedIn, Chelsea Whittington. You can find me on Twitter, Chelsea Whittington. You can find me on Instagram, Chelsea Whittington, and my personal page on Facebook, which is public, Chelsea Stalling Whittington. And my website is cwit.biz. Who you with? CWIT.
Love it. Love it. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us today. Alan, what's up next for you, and where can we find more out about you?
So, part of my initiative of 2021 is just really locking down a lot of the stuff that, like I said, we went all in on. So from a professional videography company, we're really made a lot of strides in that sense. And so we are always for hire for that. But and Local 219 is, to give it in like a quick rundown, is that we try to really just highlight local people doing awesome things. And so we're going to continue to do that as much as possible. I've got some things that I'm trying to do behind the scenes. I can't really say publicly, but because it's strategy stuff. And however, we are going to be continuing to grow that following. And we are Local 209 across all platforms. And I wanted to kind of say one more thing to the kids who are maybe in that cafeteria eating pizza and they're watching. Right now feels like, yeah, it's dinner time. Right now it feels like you've got a lot of pressure on you, and that you've got to make a lot of decisions right now, and that everything is just so important. As a guy who's 38 years old, I will promise you've got a lot of life to live still. Take some chances, get into some professions that you may not think you're interested in. If you've never worked in the restaurant industry before, get a job there. Go out there. Do not feel, even if your friends are all getting married and having kids, that doesn't mean you have to. Get out there, experience the world, take trips, just really try to encompass as much as you can, because when that stuff does start to happen, I have 2 kids, I have a wife, and I have a mortgage, I have a business. It gets a lot tougher when you get older, and the responsibilities that you think you have now, you are nowhere near what you're going to have when you're older. So just take advantage of this youth and don't put so much pressure on yourself. You're one of millions of people who may not have a feeling of where they're at, or where, if they don't have any direction. So
Boom.
Good night.
Boom. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Alan, so much for joining us on this panel as well. Caitlin, why don't you hop on here and go ahead and maybe ask some of our panelists some of the questions you've been receiving, and even in the chat. Caitlin. I know we've been getting questions. Okay, I'm not seeing her. She did send me a few. I can just go ahead and ask, how do you stay disciplined when things aren't going as planned and when you're first starting? So let's just do one person answers because we have quite a few, and then, we'll just go back and forth. So maybe Chelsea, how do you stay disciplined when things aren't going as planned when you're first starting?
Prayer. I'm a spiritual individual and God is the head of my life. I am very involved in my church. And so with me being part of the social media ministry, go figure, that I'm there broadcasting live and I'm getting my fill up, if you will, every Sunday to keep it going, because I know there are going to be obstacles. And so for me, it's my spiritual journey that keeps me grounded and know that whatever it is, I can conquer it. I'll get through it.
Love it. Alan, how do you figure out what your passion is or what sets you apart from others?
You'll know right away, and you may not just be listening to the answers. My entire education was based around, I never realized it, but I was getting straight A's in art and gym my entire life. And so ignored that until I was about 30. So one of those things that just really have those moments of introspection, look at what you're excelling at, even though it feels like medial, and you'll know what your passions are.
Can I add to that real quick?
Sure.
You'll know it's your passion when you don't care whether or not you get paid. When you're hanging out, you're like at the studio and I'm like, you're still here? You're off the clock. And it's like, I'm still here though. I'm just hanging out.
Yep.
You'll start to recognize. Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Chelsea, you mentioned to make use of contacts, but what exactly does making use of them entail?
So for me, email marketing. Everybody is not on social media, but just about everybody has an email address. And so if your business is one where you need to reach out to potential customers, that's your database. That's why you're collecting all of these email addresses and contact information. And there may be potential investors within all of those contacts that you're collecting, and also media representatives. Sometimes one story on TV will catapult your brand to new levels unseen. And so that's what I mean when I say make use of them. If it's someone who's in a business doing something that you want to do, then perhaps it means you shadowing that person and you're using your network contacts that way. But for me, I specifically meant these can be potential customers in the future and or investors.
And so you had mentioned brand. We have a question. What's a good way to build your brand? Alan, why don't you go ahead and take that one?
I think like Chelsea, reiterated earlier that like, it's really about that time you get to be prepared, finding out what you're passionate about, what your rules of your, whether it's your household or whether it's your business. You just got to create a credo around things that are going to be really important to you. Highlight those things on a day-to-day basis and then stay true to them. I think from a creative side, you'll find out from that experience what your imagery should look like, what your logo should be, how you should approach people, what your communication channels are going to be. Like Chelsea mentioned earlier, having a plan and how to execute and communicate that plan properly to people, really getting a chance just to kind of dive into that and think about it as much detail as you possibly can, from clothing to everything, how the type of content you're going to share on your social, and making sure that it's all inside that identity is really important.
Yes, I was going to piggyback off that, Alan, to say that social media, that's the free way to build your brand right now. And so if you follow me on social media, I post daily throughout the day. You get to know someone through their posts. And if they are truly genuine, you'll know it's them through the consistency of the content that they share. So if you follow me, you're going to go to the gym with me. You're going to meet my new clients. You're going to see what videos I post. You're going to find out a little bit about my family. You can go to church with me on Sunday. So it's that consistency and that positivity that helps you to build your brand.
Yeah. And I'm also going to jump on that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with asking for feedback too, and asking for recommendations. Have people send you a recommendation. I have tenants that when they're moving out, I'm asking them what are some things they really loved about their experience. What are some things that should be worked on? And so maybe for me, that's, buying new appliances for that specific unit, or having the recommendation section. I actually get to quote them when I'm actually posting units on Zillow. And so don't be ashamed to ask for recommendations. I have been collecting LinkedIn recommendations from my past supervisors and colleagues that I've been working with too. So that's another great way to also ask.
Good job. That's a great one. And can I also say that it is very important, or I think so, that you support other small business owners. When I buy a hat, a belt, a stock option, I post it and I tag the business that I supported in my posts. And I recommend, I say, you need financial advice, go see this person. You like these cute shoes, go see this person. And it's reciprocated. And it also shows that lack of, that you're not selfish, that you want everybody to win. And I do. And so that's why I look very hard to try to find whatever it is that I need. I try to find it in my own community and try to support people locally and then blast their names back out there. It'll come back to you. I promise.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is not a crabs in a barrel. This is having that type of mindset where you think if you help somebody else, it's not going to help you. It's a scarcity mindset where, I love to think of it as everybody eats, everybody wins.
Exactly.
So absolutely. I love that you said that. I think we're at perfect time. I haven't seen any other questions come in. I do want to mention Arturo Santiago. He reiterated, Chelsea, what you said is that coming out of COVID, they're going to continue with some components moving forward, such as a hybrid method of having their club meetings as well. So thank you again so much for giving back to PNW. And we really appreciate your time. And I know that the students are going to have a lot of value coming out of this.
This was fun. Now tell somebody to Uber eat me a pizza over here.
Yeah, for real. Well, it was fun. Well, thank you so much. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.